a beautiful picture of you.
Sweet, Leon.
Morning.
Wow, that's cool.
Mostly in Odessa, but I also have been working all around the country, near the front line, on the occupied areas, and just like I had the most beautiful Ukraine trips during the invasion, more than I ever had in my life before the invasion. Just the sound, probably that was the sound of I'm not sure actually what was that, but that was the sound of the rocket strike. It was either the sound of the rocket strike or the sound of the rocket hitting, or the air defense hitting the missile. But anyway, that was the sound of explosion. And it happened on 24th, I think at 4:30 a.m., right after Putin had finished his speech about the starting of the special military operation, because we were watching it live. And also his voice, because I remember his voice telling that kind of he's deciding over my destiny for the next, I don't know how many years. Yeah. Silent. It was silent. It was really first time in my life where I felt really deeply for Odessa. Like I felt like I'm finally there is nothing between me and the city, you know, and I could see the empty streets, the architecture, and the cats, and because I'm working in the visual sphere, I could hear things that I saw, and it was very bright and vivid. At the same time, the sound of air alarm was really kind of troubling, and I remember this like really quiet smokings, because I moved in to my friend's apartment where we were living with our other friends, so we had like kind of this squad, like a community for a few months of the war that really saved me. So I remember our conversations, and because we had a couple like Vita and Diana, they were living with us, and I remember hearing over some of their conversations, like a couple conversations, like mumbling, and just not really getting into it, but just it was really making me feel comfortable that someone has this couple conversation, even when they were arguing or something like that. And then some news would get through because everyone was just sitting on the internet, and like almost at the same time from different rooms someone would say the same news. So we were feeling like that it's like a medieval square, and you just have to shout out the news, and everyone would just like, oh, what's happened, and then you would follow up and stuff like that. And then you would go out, start smoking, and it's like a nighttime, early March, and you would feel like, because it's early March, so you expect to feel the spring is coming. So you feel that the spring is coming, and you hear some birds singing in the night, like, you know, late birds, and then you hear this air alarm, and then you start to hear to every sound that you can listen to, and you just like you feel like very distant explosion. Or for example, we were living near, like here in this area, the port is not too far, so we were hearing the sound of like this rumble of the train going through the port, and we were like, oh, what the fuck is going on, like we are under attack. And then it would come up, it's just the train moving through the port, and every explosion would become just something very significant for us. And now it's not like that anymore. It's just like you would hear that explosion, then you would have the conversation about that explosion, about the character of that explosion, how did it sound, and what was that. And because at that time the official communication and the internet communication through Telegram channels was not that sophisticated as it now is, like the news, everyone was confused, and this kind of social media informing was kind of just in process of building up. You had a long time to have this, space for your own thoughts before you were told what was actually happening. So you had time just to think, oh, what that explosion could be. That's it's really weird, but I really remember those times as really warm times, because it was a time when everyone was kind of really close with each other, and you would receive the messages of how are you doing, and you would receive the Telegram post that there are explosions in Odessa, and then like dozens of people would write you how are you, and now it's not like that anymore, and it's understandable, of course. Yeah. I left to Munich in September, I think it was late September, October. When is Oktoberfest?
In October.
Yeah.
No,
it's the end of October. Is it?
I think it's in September actually, but it's called
Yeah,
Oktoberfest.
it's like on the break between September and October. And I remember that I went to Munich, and what I was really freaking out about is just the sound of helicopters and planes flying in the sky. That was really like, it's so interesting how fast you forget the normal sounds, and then the new normal comes to life. And the airplanes and the helicopter sounds, for the first days they were like the sounds of danger, but then they were still triggering you, but not in the way that you would react and look at the sky and see where the sound is coming from. It's a set of sounds that I cannot get used to just like that. It's a few days ago when I was going from your apartment, and I was sitting in the car, and there was this public bus that I was in a taxi, and we were standing on the traffic light and waiting for the green light, and then there was this public bus standing right to us, and it just made this kind of sound, this psh, this sound psh, when they opened the door. But the thing is that they were right close to this ear, and when they made this psh, I almost dropped on the taxi seat because it was so loud. I thought something is happening right close to me. And although in my mind I understand there is no danger because I didn't hear alarm or something like that, but my reaction to the sound is much more is much faster and rapid, and it's just I react to the sound. That's the thing. Like previously I could maybe not react to the sound but now I like loud and I don't know, angry sounds, like loud and unexpected sounds. Most of the times they are perceived as dangerous sounds. Like we were with Maria, we were in Kremenchuk, and we were on this. I just came from the assignment, and because in Kherson previously we heard the really loud sounds of this outgoing Ukrainian artillery, but really close to us. I really had my half of my ear, just I didn't hear anything for the half of the day because it was just too close. And me and Maria, we were on this, and it also happened after the strikes on Odessa. We were on the lake, and we were swimming, and then we were just like sunbathing, and there were these like metal jars, not the jars, but you know, the where you put the oil, metal, this thing, or you can put the fire in it, like metal barrels. Yeah, metal barrels, and they were heating up on the sun, and at some point, because of the heat, they were making this, because the metal is going like wider, so they were making this like boom sound, you know. And me and Maria, we both were like, and the entire beach was okay with that, and it happened 3 times, because it was like 4 of these barrels, and it happened 3 times, and each time me and Maria, we were like, you know, what's going on? It's like PTSD, you know, this Vietnam flashback or something like that. And I had really big problem with the sound of the gate here, the one that you entered through, because it has this automatic like robotized thing that it closes it. So you use this like thing, you use this button to press the button, and then it opens, and you use the button and it closes. So when it closed, it when it's closing, it makes the sound, because the gates are very heavy, so it makes the sound because metal is hitting the metal. And when I just moved in here, I couldn't sleep because of that sound, because like after the curfew is over, like 6 in the morning, people started to leave the yard, and the same when they were coming back, all the way up until 11 p.m. you could hear the sound. And the problem was that this sound is just all the time, it's just the same sound, so you expect it. So when you hear the car is coming, you expect this, like the same rhythm, because it's just robotized. So I mean, that probably shows the level of stress that I had before and that I don't have now, because at that time I called the special team of the guys who fixed the gates, and they made this system smoother. I paid a lot of money just to do that. No one asked me to do that. I was just like very nervous running around this stuff. And then everyone of my neighbors who are just chilled, and they don't go to the combat zones, and they don't have to sleep after you sleep in Donbass, and then you come here. You like when I go to Donbass or any other places that you can like constantly are under fire, it's normal, like you're going to a different mode. It's normal, you expect that there is this sound, but when you come back to a normal place, but like considerably safe place, you are very, very alarmed for any sound, and you finally are getting relaxed, and your brain wants to relax, and then because of that, every random sound is very kind of disturbing to you. So all of my neighbors, they were coming, and they were like asking what's going on, and I was saying like just fixing the gate because it's just too loud, and all of them were like, oh, we're not paying for that. And I'm like, you're not paying for that, I'm paying for that, you don't have to worry. And they were like, oh, okay, that's fine. and then it's just Odessa style thing, and then they somehow, because of the blackout, this gate thing, because it's using electricity, it became out of order. So this whole thing was just like disorganized, and I realized that I spent all my money in nothing, because these people came, like my neighbors, and it's also the story about the car owners and not car owners. So car owners thinks they are lords of this world, and they realized that they said that they need a proper working gate, and they were telling me like, you don't realize we have all the junks here, we have alcoholics here because the gates are not working, and you were not living here, and you're not the flat owner, you're renting this apartment, so you just don't understand what's the problem. And I kept telling them that I cannot sleep because of that sound, because this sound just came back, just like banging. And at some point there was a guy who apparently is very much into reading the news and understanding what the war is about, and la la la, and because we had a huge argument on the group chat of the yard, and after that chat I said, you very privileged flat owners, goodbye, I hope you sleep well and stuff like that. And he felt sorry, and he came to me and he said, okay, let's do this. And right before the new year, we bought huge layers of this, this smooth like fabric. I don't just like this polyplastic thing that we just glued onto these gates, and it's just very smooth now. And but I was so like first half year or maybe even more, maybe first year of the war, I was really very very picky for the sounds. But that also was my thing before the war. I became more relaxed now, and I realized that I even can sleep with the windows open and without these earplugs because before that I would sleep all the time with the earplugs. Even if there was a danger of airstrike, I would prefer to be in earplugs because I had the troubles with my sleep, and most of the troubles, they became out of sound. Yeah. I remember this time when we went to Bakhmut in the summer of 2022. It was the time when Ukrainians left Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, and Bakhmut was expected to become the new hot point of the war, and we were kind of reporting of this thing. We were talking to the local people and asking them what do they feel that they will become. No one of course expecting that Bakhmut will become what it became, but at that time you could hear a lot of sounds of outgoing Ukrainian artillery and incoming. But and we were working in the city, and I remember this when I first time I heard this Grad system going out. So it was Ukrainian Grad system operating somewhere on the industry areas in Bakhmut. So when it goes out, it has this sound just like long sound of rocket launching, because it's a multi-rocket launching system. And I remember that we had this car, this Renault Berlingo. It has the regular door, and it also has this door like that slides, like sliding door. And so I sat in the car because we heard some sounds we were in dangerous area and we had to leave quickly. So I sat in the car and I shut my door, and I was expecting that my journalist is sitting back and he had to slide his door. And I was hearing this sliding, like sound of the sliding, but at some point it just became too long. And I turned back and I realized that my journalist is not closing the door, but it was the sound of CRUD system going out somewhere, but it was just the same sound of the sliding door. So I remember this confusion, that sound can be very tricky, but probably not the sound, but your brain, because I realized that the brain has some register of the sound, so it's like encyclopedia. So every time you have new sound, first of all, it gets synchronized with some data that you had before in your previous experience, and it connects to it. But then you realize that it's something different, and it goes under the different name into the register. So that... And also the sound of seagulls. The like one of the time after time I go to Zhenya's apartment and we drink there and we have conversations, so we stay up all night. And we had after we met the board together, and after we experienced that, sometimes when we come together in his apartment, we're like, okay, are we going to have the same shit going on this time? And so after that we had 4 times like that, 3 or 4 times, that we're just drinking on the balcony, and then air alarm starts, and because he has this, like his balcony is facing one of the areas that is getting targeted all the time. It's like 3 or 4 kilometers away from him, but you see this air defense system working, and you hear that sound. And one time it was really loud night, and after that we realized it's just quiet, but all the seagulls that were sleeping, they kind of were troubled, and they were just flying around and screaming. So you just hear the sound of air alarm and these screams of seagulls all the time. It's very massive and troubled, and it's really not, it's really brings you anxiety, the sound of screaming, like in the night, just screaming seagulls all the time. This is a very kind of significant sound to me. Definitely yes, but not for the sound of explosives. When I hear the sound of explosives, it's kind of a relief for me, because from the very beginning of invasion, we were all living in stress and expectation of something, like some shit will happen. So you're kind of very erected for this thing to happen. So you're very sensitive to any, like I was saying about the sound of the bars, or you're sensitive to the sound of like these barrels or something unexpectedly happening. And then you realize it's not that, and you're kind of very, it's not the explosive, it's not the missile, it's not the air defense, so you're kind of very, in some way, frustrated that it's not it. But when it's finally, that's the word that I want to use, when it's finally the missile strike or the drone attack or something like that, you feel the relief, you feel that you haven't been worrying just in vain. You had the reason to worry, because this mode that we are living in is really close to paranoia. You're all the time expecting some shit to happen. So when it's finally happening, you feel this kind of relief. You're like, I was right, this is happening. Now I have to operate in this dangerous mode, because Odessa is considerably safe city, and you go through the streets and you feel like people sitting in the restaurants and stuff like that. I remember very clearly when people started to come back to Odessa after a few months of the war, and I would just go out in the streets after these months of empty streets and empty markets, empty, like no cars and stuff like that. But then at some point I saw all these people coming back, and had drinking coffee and dealing with all this their regular shit, решаем вопросы. I don't know how to say that. They like dealing with problems and doing their dodgy stuff. And I really never liked those kind of people who are just, you never know what they're doing, but they're doing something, and they drive fancy cars, and they just irritate you all the time. And I remember that when I really felt like it would be so great to hear the fucking sound of very loud explosive right above their heads now, so they would not be so relaxed, And this is not very nice, but I had this feeling. And sometimes I really, and Maria as well, sometimes you really want to hear that sound, like, and then you're like, it's like in the childhood, you're in the danger, so you can hide, and then this game becomes too serious at some point. Yeah. Silence means peace. I really understand that I'm all the time in the search for silence in my daily life. I really became very sensitive about the silence. At the same time, I remember that I woke up one night, it was a few days ago in Kremenchuk, when we slept with Maria in her parents' apartments. I woke up around 5 in the morning. It was still dark outside, and we had window open, and I didn't hear any sound at all. It was just like in a vacuum. and that was really scary. I remember that I woke up and I realized that there was a complete silence, and I couldn't stop thinking that something is going to happen now. Like I was expecting some explosion, something like that. Yeah. But silence is really. I mean, sound overall became a huge factor in everyday life, and it became a huge trigger for thoughts, for actions, for your communication patterns, and somehow it seems that if you reach the proper level of silence, then you can start over. You know, you can start over with your feelings, with your mood, with your attitude, and with your conversation. Like, and that would be nice to have control over silence, over sound, you know, but that's something uncontrollable. My friend Yuri Izdrik, a few days ago, he said that we were sitting drinking coffee in a very nice place in Odessa, and it was almost paradise, and we were talking about how good is to be able to have the moments like that during the wartime, just a quiet coffee and stuff like that. And then some guys started to drill the wall right behind us, and Yuri said that, okay, here they come, those are the agents of hell. So he said those are the agents of hell and the agents of devil. So noise became something that it doesn't always mean danger, and it doesn't always mean stress, but it always means inability to relax somehow, you know. I cannot relax on the party now. When I go to the private techno party or something like that, I cannot relax there. It's not like it was before, that you listen to loud music and you can lose yourself there. Not anymore. I cannot, I have to stay focused. I cannot unfocus when it's loud around me. Yeah. It's you describe your experience with describing sounds. You try to communicate something that you cannot communicate with words. You cannot. It's not something that you saw, because we used to live with this visual medium where you describe what you see, and you can describe colors and stuff. But for the sound, we have not that much vocabulary, and for the sound, it looks like touching each other in a very small room. You just try to describe with telling the same words a few times. You try to describe what you experienced, and I think we will have much more different sound words after this war. Yeah. And maybe sound related experiences, and art as well, and therapy probably too. Yeah. It's not my unique terminology, but it's like overall Ukrainian, like when I'm on the work and you hear the sound of artillery, you just for yourself immediately you have to understand, is it incoming or outgoing, and you can have not the argument but the discussion with the people around you. Like someone would say it's incoming and the others would say it's outgoing, and then you would try to explain why you think that and why they think that this is incoming or something like that. And it's also interesting that you tend to say that there are more incomings than outgoings because you tend to feel more danger than it is in real life, and you try to explain your focusing and stressing by saying that there are more danger than it actually might be. But now it's cold temperature, this lamp has few temperatures. Now it's cold. It was warm before. I don't know what you prefer. Is it okay now?
So it changes depending on
Yeah.
if I switch it on again.
Now it's very warm. It has standard, cold and warm.
I understand. Okay, I prefer this one. Okay.
This is more like daylight. Yeah, I started to listen more to instrumental music and vocal music and ambient music. I almost don't listen to... I used to listen a lot to house music before. I was all into house music. I was DJing and stuff like that. I don't listen to house music anymore. First of all, because it's just too predictable and it irritates me in a way. And also because it feels somehow inappropriate, because house music is all about cheerful stuff, and I just can't withstand all my associations that I have with house music from before, because when I used to listen to house music, that's a tram. When I used to listen to house music, I remember that I used to dream about not like islands and party, but more like summer stuff, chill vibes, smoking joints and enjoying life. And it seems like it's just cannot be like that anymore. And I listen more to the instrumental music now that's unpredictable, that I can follow to, that I can listen to, and I can exhaust myself on it. You know what I mean? And sometimes I listen to aggressive music. Sometimes I have to, when I need to cheer myself up or something like that, and bring more drama when you're going somewhere and you feel stressed and you need to pump yourself up. But yeah, music became more like utility. You are, a lot of things became more, I don't know how to say, utilitical, or I don't know, utilitarian, something like that. Yeah. So a lot of stuff, and music itself, most of the music became as a tool. And it's also sad sometimes, because you turn on your favorite track and you realize that your favorite track for yourself became a tool in this war, just to keep you through, or maybe just to keep you through, but from now on it will record in your memory as a war track as well. But Kevin Murphy, that's something that is just over everything. It's just something that almost like a prayer, it just helps you to get through and also one more song. There is this song. I have a playlist that's called War, and there is this song by Vera Lynn, We'll Meet Again, and it's the song that was very popular in Britain during the World War II, and it was this cheering song, and it was the song that British pilots were singing before they went on the mission, and it's very beautiful and sad, and I really like this song comparing to modern Ukrainian pop songs about the war, about these propaganda songs and stuff like that. They are really senseless and they are not empathy. And war music doesn't have to be aggressive, doesn't have to be about destructions or killing someone or something like that. It's like this song is really beautiful, it's about, it's just named We Will Meet Again, like we are living on the mission, but and it's just like about pilots dying because they know that they're going to die probably, and she's singing, "When you see my friends, tell them that I won't be long, and that when you saw me last time, I was singing this song." And this just like I feel very emotional now. This song always catches me very emotional. It's just about the thing that this is the art that helps us to overcome the death in some way, the fear of death, and overcome the stuff that brings death. This is very important. I would think, of course, of the sound of air alarm. But at the same time, I feel some distance to all these sounds. I don't feel them as personal. And it's interesting because war experience is at the same time personal and common experience. So when I hear the air alarm, I think that I think of the fact that everyone hears that at the same time. But for me personally, I don't know, just the sound of normal life. You appreciate that. I mean, you start to think about that in a way that, okay, everything is quiet, everything is fine around, just these cars going and stuff like that. It's really important. Birds singing. This is something that you chase for. This is the sound of normal life. Normality would be the icon probably, because icon is something that you look after and you look forward to. Yeah. Of course, it's irritating sound, and you perceive that at first as, oh, come on, oh my god, again, this sound, blah, blah, blah. But at some point, my friend Dima, who is a volunteer, he spoke to his therapist, I think, it was in the beginning of the war, and his therapist said to him, like, gave him an advice, like, don't, this sound doesn't have to bring anxiety to you, just the sound itself. Because imagine this sound as a friend that's coming to you and he claps you on the shoulder and says, look, you're okay, everything is fine, but just be aware that something might be happening and something can happen. This is your friend. So from that point, I just, and also because I hear that sound in different cities, in different conditions, it's interesting to compare that. Sometimes it can be irritating. Like in my hometown, in Belgorod-Dnistrovsky, it's very long and it's very loud. So it's kind of, oh my god, fuck, just shut up. It's just very long. And it can be really interesting to experience that sound when it starts far away and then it's come closer and closer and closer. So it's just, the sound became also the object of investigation. And then this sound of siren as well, the object of research. You just try to build your relationship with that and to build it into your work. That's interesting. It's peaceful. Nice sounds good. And what's interesting as well about the sound is that the thing that I thought that you just made a clap, and I think that sound, I never thought of it, but sound can start some processes in your body, like chemical processes, the worrying, and you hear this explosion sound and then you start the worry and then you want to, I don't know, you want to poop because you're stressed, so the sound is really inside of you, and it's really we underestimated the sound, and we always thought probably not as a society, because I know there are like wars going on in the world all the time, but us as maybe Ukrainians, maybe just me and my friends experiencing, going through this experience, we open up the different side of the sound that I'm not just listening to this soundscape of peaceful city during the evening now. I really in the process of appreciating that, that I value that. I value the fact that there are children running around and there are drivers that are driving cars, and even if there is a driver who is driving fucked up car with a stupid sound, only if that's not motorcyclists who are doing these stupid sounds, that one should be killed. But I appreciate the fact that the sound is the fact of life going on, these sounds. And this is kind of a documentation that just my brain is constantly recording that everything is normal. It's like reassuring. It's like what I have an idea of that I'm of the on the project that I'm preparing for the exhibition is just like looking at everything that people do as so sometimes you hear the like the false air alarm or something like that,
it's
and
like
then
some kind of tone which seems to rise,
and your brain just builds it up
because
it's just it catches it and it builds it up. So I don't know. And then you have this moment of silence when everyone's just listening, and everyone is just not paying attention to anything else, like not to the physical world, not to the visual world. You're just listening, and this is the main source of information for you. And you try to transcribe it into the understandable words in your. Oh, yes.
It is.
It is.
This already happened to me.
So you understand this peaceful world is very fragile. You appreciate its fragility. You understand that this normal soundscape, it's not something thick. It's just on the surface, and it can be broken at any moment.
Do you think it's what kind of sound does it make? Is it screaming or singing? The siren? How would you describe it?
I think the word itself, the siren, is coming from the Greek mythology, right? So it's there is a mixture of feelings, because the sirens, they were singing to confuse the sailors and to bring them to the danger, to the death actually. And we use sirens as the sign of warning people, as a friendly sign, as I said before. But the nature of this sign, of the sound, of course, is it has to take you out of your daily routine, out of your pleasures, out of your everything. It has to be horrifying, it has to be worrying, it has to be hunting. Like this is a sound of hauntology, this is a sound of something might happen. Nothing is happening now, but something might happen. And then your whole brain is working about the different options and what should I do and what I shouldn't do and stuff like that. Because every person in the city which hear this sound, even if they're just having a party or something, but for some point of time, for maybe a second or maybe a moment, they just, you have this image of like, okay, I hear the sound, what it means. That means I remember I saw the explosions in Chernihiv, I remember explosions in Odessa, I remember explosions in Kherson, I saw the images from Dnipro, I saw the images from Kiev, I remember the very first day, so this kind of connects you to everything. This sound is a container itself, it just takes everything into it.